Today on the Topping Show, Matt Walsh's clip on white people not being called natives anywhere goes viral on social media. The Michigan man named Mohamed is arrested for a terror plot. Democrat Representative Ayanna Pressley says the United States owes African Americans reparations now. Driverless SemiTrucks are now roaming around in Texas. And Ford recalls 5 different types of vehicles in a single day with 5 different models. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT, value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Ease me, see that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free Flamethrower with every IT purchase, with Picatinny rail adapter so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the Flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower. And lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have driverless semi-trucks now roaming around in Texas. What could go wrong? Now this is brought to us thanks to Jay over at Car and Driver. He says, quote, driverless trucks are now hauling freight in Texas. A company by the name of Aurora Innovation launches commercial runs between Dallas and Houston, but the competition is not that far behind the race in automating the trucking industry. Then you can see that ginormous semi-truck right next to, was it Cadillac CTS? Around 2012 era. Give or take a couple years. It's not the fun one. It's not the CT4 or CT5V Blackwing series, which are awesome because, you know, they're basically track toys and have a 50% take rate for stick shifts, but I partially digress. Now, they say, quote, Aurora Innovation launches autonomous trucks operations in Texas with SAE Level 4 tech, similar to robo-taxis hauling freight between Dallas and Houston. The 18-wheeler autonomous trucks now operate without a safety driver in the cab, which they say is an important step for autonomous trucking development, as well as taking over the human race. I'm kidding, I added that last part. I'm sure you can trust Skynet. Technology never turns against us. Or will it? Now, they also say several companies are focusing on autonomous trucking efforts in Texas and the Southwest in an effort to automate truck routes. Earlier this month, Aurora Innovation kicked off driverless operations in Texas, starting out that route between Dallas and Houston for commercial customers. They note that the SAE Level 4 trucks operating without a safety driver in the cab have been making a 250-mile route that has been the main focus for quite a bit of testing for several autonomous truck developers, many of which have been getting driverless trucks infrastructure ready. They say that getting to this point took years of research and plenty of on-road testing in environments open and closed to regular traffic, with Aurora Innovation achieving a successful round of validation testing. In fact, years of supervised testing, Aurora has already seen 10,000 customer loads delivered by prototypes spanning 3 million miles, which, not too shabby. They note that Aurora's first commercial customers are Uber Freight and Heribosch Motor Lines, which both have collaborated with Level 4 developer with prior supervised test. Heribosch focuses on temperature and time-sensitive freight, and like others in the industry, prides reliability and safety in a time where there's a driver shortage and other equipment-related pressures. Richard Stocking, the CEO of Heribosch Motor Lines, noted, quote, transforming an old-school industry like trucking is never easy, but we can't ignore the safe and efficiency benefits this technology can deliver. He continued saying autonomous trucks aren't just going to help grow our business, they're also going to give our drivers... I'm sorry, I couldn't say this without laughing. He says, with a straight face, somehow, he says, they're also going to give our drivers better lives by handling the lengthier and less desirable routes, unquote. Yeah, that's a nice way of saying they won't have those jobs. It'll make their lives better by not having that opportunity exist. Spoiler, if you talk to a trucker, and I've been privileged to know a couple in my life, they love the long routes, especially if it's just a long straight line, because they are paid per mile. They don't want to do the short stuff. They don't get, it's all about the long distance. Everything adds up in the aggregate. The biggest metric for a trucker when they're looking at new gigs or, a new opportunity is what's the pay rate per mile. And this guy is saying, oh yeah, no one wants those long routes. I can assure you they do. Now, they say that the busy Dallas to Houston route between warehouses is merely the first that Aurora plans to automate this year, with plans to expand driverless trucks in Phoenix and El Paso later this year. See here. Show the interior of one of these trucks. And of course, it has automatic transmission. Ugh. It's also a robot, so, probably doesn't care. Now, say, and Aurora isn't alone in focusing on the vast trucking routes in American Southwest that have made this part of the country a critical setting for SAE Level 4 truck innovation. They say that entire specialized hubs are being planned and built in various autonomous truck developers nestled in Texas. SAE Level 4 tech itself is analogous to robotaxis, but only to a point. Driverless trucks need to look much further down the road than the robotaxis in busy cities and take steps to respond in situations that wouldn't unfold for after a few seconds. This includes the ability to see pedestrians in the dark from hundreds of yards away and be able to predict when another car might run a red light. They also say, so to reach the sensor hardware took further out of space and time, and the trucks cannot stop on a dime. CEO, co-founder of Aurora, Chris Urmson says, quote, "We founded Aurora to deliver the benefits of self-driving technology quickly, safely, and broadly. Now we are the first company to successfully and safely operate a commercial driverless trucking service on public roads," unquote. They say that with the successful on-road launch earlier this month, it's becoming clear that we'll look back in 2025 as a pivotal year for driverless trucks and launch of Aurora's commercial service. One of the next questions about the autonomous truck cottage industry will have the power well before the question of profitability. It's just how seamless the freight run process can be achieved with greater distances inside Texas with dozens of trucks operating at once and being monitored remotely. They note that achieving a greater scale of operation will be among the best big tests for Aurora and others. Which, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And again, that is another industry issue. Is there's a big lack of truckers right now, and there's a big gap. And while we might import damn near everything from China, or as Trump would say, China, at the end of the day, it gets to us because, thankfully, because of a semi-truck. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, long term, this will, I think, I would say, dramatically decrease the cost for delivery, which again is also a big, vector in terms of the cost to get the food and then all the stuff onto the store shelves. The only question is, how many new jobs will be created by this? Obviously, software, new hardware needed for these trucks. As you can see, they have additional sensors and doodads and whiz bangs on the truck bolted on. I'm only partially kidding with the vernacular, but I do wonder, does the average person nowadays, do they really care if autonomous vehicles are on the road with them? I mean, as is, I'm already pretty concerned when I'm next to a semi-truck because, semi-truck is quite big and I have a small little itty-bitty little Honda Civic Si. So I usually do what I can to get away from them as soon as possible. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Part podcast, you have Matt Walsh going viral for his clip talking about how white people are never called native or indigenous. Now, this is obviously brought to us thanks to Matt Walsh, specifically on his X account, #MattWalshBlog. And he says, quote, "They want us to believe that white people are somehow not native or indigenous to any place on Earth," unquote. And it's a little lengthy, but about 3 minutes, 47 seconds. Well, no, it is precisely, but we shall get through it. I don't say F- for marketing, Daily Wire, but how is this thermos not properly illuminated so you can see that it says Liberal Tears thermos on it? That's not realistic because that thing isn't falling apart yet. And then how is his cup or his mug not perfectly turned so you can see the logo for the Sweet Baby Gang? Surely there's someone on set with a modicum of intelligence that would be in charge of branding. In theory, at least the stuff in the background, all the crap on a shelf, that is, placed properly. But I partially digress. Let's hear what Matt has to say.
This is the funny thing about who is considered native or not, who is considered an invader or not. CNN commentators have no problem announcing that white people whose ancestors have been in the country for 20 generations should go back home if they're in South Africa. But try telling the Somalis of Minnesota to go back home. You'll be immediately labeled a far-right bigot. Even though the Somalis have been here for at most a couple of decades,
Well, I was going to say mostly a couple, maybe a year or two. I mean, Minnesota has a slight to the state. I like to mispronounce it. I mean, they basically are Somalia 2.0. So many have immigrated to, or they've imported so many into Minnesota that they changed what used to be a beautiful flag of Minnesota to now a rudimentary flag that looks kind of like Somalia if you only had crayons in a kindergarten education. It's pretty pathetically simple, and they've clearly been conquered. But nevertheless, back to Matt.
I've been here for a couple of hours, but we're told that the Somalis have every right to be here. That we're told the Somalis, the moment they step foot here, they are just as American as anyone else. The moment the Somali steps foot in this country, they're just as American as you, even if your family's been here for 400 years. And yet the white South Africans are not South African even after 400 years. And Americans who can trace their lineage back several centuries, they just have to shut up and take it in this country. No matter where they are, maybe you've noticed white people, no matter where they are always the colonizers and have no legitimate claim to whatever land they're on. In other words, under the left's framework, white people are the only demographic on the planet that can never be considered truly at home or native to any country anywhere. You know, we'll be told that a white person's true home is Western Europe. And yet, if any white person in the UK claimed that it was a white country, they'd be condemned.
Or they'd be banned on social media. Or in the UK, they'd be fined because the government can and will arrest you and fine you for memes, or as I call them, memes, because it sounds kind of fancier that way.
You know, they say to us in America that this isn't our land, right? It's stolen. So where is our land? They will not follow that to its conclusion and say that, well, Europe is the white man's land. They're not going to say that. So where is it? The message is that there is literally no place on earth that white people can claim as a legitimate homeland. A white man is native to nowhere. He is indigenous to nowhere.
Russia? Kidding.
I mean, that's strange, isn't it? How does that work? Like, have you noticed that there's no country on the planet with white indigenous people? How is that possible? Where did the white people come from? Did they fall out of the sky like
I thought we called that Iowa. Kidding. Well, maybe not.
rain? Did they magically spawn out of thin air? If a white person could
It's funny he says it spawn out of thin air, or spawn out of thin air. I was going to say, well, I guess it's backwards because I'm doing the hand gesture to the screen. But yeah, famous historical figure, not yet to be born, but soon to be born in Iowa, Captain Kirk of the Star Wars universe. Kidding, I know it's Star Trek, but still, maybe that's real. I'm kidding.
trace his roots back to the 17th century in this country, does that make him a Native American? I mean, at what point can the white person say, yeah, I am native to this country? How many centuries does he need to be? Does his family need to be in a country to be native to it? How many generations? 10? Is that enough? No. 15, 20, 25, 30, 40? Is that enough? At that point, can we say we're native to this country? And if the answer is, well, there's no amount of time, if the answer is that, well, it could be 1,000 years from now, and a white person who's been here for more than 1,000 years, their family's been here for 1,000 years, still is not native to this country in America. If that's the answer, then again, where is his native homeland? And if he goes there, can he claim the title of native or indigenous? Can he say that the non-natives are invading or stealing? Well, the left has no answer to any of those questions. And the reason is that the terms native and colonizer and invader and indigenous are all just tools of manipulation. They don't mean anything.
True. Though, again, I'm not sure why this is bugging me. Maybe it's just my OCD. But I thought the editors or someone would fix this in the shot. But again, his main thermos on the table, which suspiciously enough, people never actually drink out of them. Are there really contents inside? Or are there not? But again, 80% of that logo is blacked out, or, there's not light on it, so you can't read it. And again, his iconic mug, or his mug with his gang on it, the Sweet Baby Gang, can't elaborate. I'm not allowed to elaborate more into the doings of that club or organization, but nevertheless, you only see half of it. And again, I'm maybe I'm the only idiot who cares about this stuff, but branding is important. Well, shoot, that's the way. Sponsored by Topping Technologies. You can see that perfectly in this beautiful mug here. In fact, some would say, that's the best mug I've ever seen on the table. You can see the logo so perfectly, so great, so grand. I hear they even give away flamethrowers to Topping Technologies with every IT purchase. Go to the website to check it out, as some might say. But, yep, Matt Walsh, yet again, is, as youth might say, based. Now, go to the comments again. It's got 29.1 million views and 60,000 likes. Or, no, I thought we could make it the one more to make it 61,000 likes. We were not, but I liked it nevertheless. Now, one of the first ones comes to us thanks to, I'm going to butcher this name, but not intentionally, Arquail Bloss. Arquail Boss. She says, who are white people. And she got 49 likes for that. Cool Christian engineer, A plus marketing, you know exactly what he does for a living. If you're self-employed, you definitely need to put like his company name in there. That's the only thing that's missing in terms of a good advertisement, I think. Or maybe it intrigues me so much, I'll check out his profile. But in all seriousness, cool Christian engineer says, quote, sometimes this is the case. And there's a sticker on looks like a rail. It says, they don't hate racism, they hate white people. And 82 likes. Base electrician. Perhaps maybe he's also an engineer, some might say. Got some tradesmen up in here. He says, quote, I've recently decided that I'm indigenous to wherever I want to be, getting 15 likes. Cash Loren says, because Democrats are Marxist racist, getting 34 likes. Libby Emmons says, quote, I'm an indigenous Yankee, getting 125 likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, there's a massive push to discriminate against white people. It's a real pandemic, getting 296 likes. Sandman Turo says, you're native to Europe, but you're an invader everywhere else, getting 678 likes. I mean, Europe is looking a lot differently these days. We'll see how much longer they'll hold on to that. The UK, oh, I was going to say, England looks a lot like Somalia these days. This propaganda says, quote, white people are not native to Americas, white people are not native to Africa, white people are not native to Europe. Or says white people, sorry, he says white people are native to Europe. That is a complicated one, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Contrarian statement. Clutch Insights responded to him saying, quote, do you think people in general should only live in their indigenous lands? Should all Africans move back to Africa, Asians back to Asia, and whites back to Europe? Getting 84 likes. Sam says, except when foreigners invade Europe and white people are still called bigots and racist for saying Europe is for white people, that's the point of Walsh's argument, getting 134 likes. Including one from me, which, again, yeah, if you say, I mean, Europe is such a messed up, weak, conquered place that citizens who complain about illegals who abuse women and children, they actually get in more trouble for making memes about that, memes, than the actual perpetrators. They get lighter sentences than the evil men who are abusing these women and kids. That's how pathetic Europe is. Also, probably, pathetic and weak and maybe corrupted their officials are. You could also argue the citizens are weak for allowing that to happen and not getting off their keisters and maybe voting differently. Yet another reason to never let your guns go away. Because they're very easy to control the populace if they have no repercussions or no way to stand up for themselves. Mooey says, go back to Europe if it bothers you so much. No one is forcing you to be in the US. If any race is unhappy in the US, then go. Getting 19 likes. Atticus says, quote, responding to him, says, yes, the old, if you're unhappy about it, go to your homeland, being given over and taken away. Just leave and we can have it. Retards everywhere. Getting 21 likes. He says that, but I was going to say, I do not see the hashtag or the user on X known as retard finder in this yet. Crazy Vibe has a picture that says this, and it's someone by the name of Mark Lunchman, and he says, quote, only 1.6% of U.S. citizens owned slaves in 1860 when slavery was at its peak. So if you stop basing your hate for the entire white race for the actions of 1.6%, getting 675 likes. Mr. Pitbull, I was going to say, at this point, I'm almost convinced, is this the singer? Let's see here. His profile says, I'm with the truth. He also says, free Texas and Florida from Islam. And he, maybe, I don't think it's a singer. He's only got 92,000 followers, which, again, is a lot more than me. However, I think the Pitbull musician, I'm pretty sure he has more than that many followers. I think he's the guy who's talking about the Holiday Inn, right? Something to that effect. I'm sure he has a couple songs. He's known for being, he owns many sunglasses and many oils to shine his balding head. And he wears a suit. So I guess he is based in terms of his clothing attire. Now, Mr. Pitbull says, quote, once white people became a minority, they'll be targeted with constant payback for so-called hateful historic sins. It's already happening in South Africa and other parts of Europe, and it could happen here next. Rejecting the guilty narrative, there's nothing shameful about being white. Getting 787 likes. I mean, it's been happening in the U.S. for years with everyone clamoring, a lot of people using the subject and I would say mostly as a political tool in terms of the topic of reparations. I mean, that's been a topic for, 30 plus years in the United States? And politicians always promise, oh yeah, we'll get you this. Yeah, they won't. Also, again, we're 36.6 trillion in debt. So even if they want to, where would the money come from? Machiavelli has a picture of a Democrat and there's the southern border being invaded. It says infinity non-whites, and then he's happy. And then Democrats disgusted when it says 50 white farmers from South Africa, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Tony Riccatoni says, who are they? Getting 3.6 thousand likes. Timothy responded saying, the left, obviously. Do you think he meant something else? Well, then you're pretty effing stupid. Getting 69 likes. Tony responded saying, quote, you are too low IQ to have rights in this country. Getting 24 likes. Officer Nasty says, we'll find out when they fire Matt Walsh. Getting 103 likes. I hope they don't fire him. I mean, I think it's a small sample size now because they get rid of so many of their talent, but I think he's one of the best talents at the Daily Wire, even if I don't agree with him on everything, which kind of cliche to say because, you don't agree with anyone on everything. But yeah, let's, Matt Walsh is standing up, he's, past couple months standing up for free speech and, going up against, what the Daily Wire heads might like. Now, scrolling down, you also have mirthful moments saying F around, find out. It says South Africa, after round, will find out. White farmers currently produce. And again, still don't see a source for this, but this picture is going viral on social media lately. It says they produce 95.3% of their corn, 98.7% of their wheat, 97.6% of their cotton, 7.2% of their citrus, 99% of their potatoes. But let's be honest, they just growing those for themselves. I'm only partially kidding. 91.4% tomatoes, 96.9% of their soybeans, 95.8% of their poultry, 66% of their cattle, and 89% of their wool. They got 121 likes. You have Adam Johnson saying, quote, to the left, white people are colonizers and so in America deserve to be replaced via mass immigration, since our nation was founded in, quote, unquote, stolen land. For Europeans, because they colonized most of the world, they also deserve to be replaced by mass migration. Is revenge, getting 992 likes. It was 1. Now it went up like a stock right before our eyes. Crazy Vibes also says Boers have been in many parts of South Africa much longer than Bantus have been there. Whites arrived in America before Maori arrived in New Zealand. The left is completely, utterly hypocritical when it comes to the ideals of nativeness, indigenous, and belonging, getting 199 likes. So not too many contrarian statements. You know, Special Officer Doofy saying, who is they, Matt, the Jews, getting 701 likes. A.T. Johnson responded saying, communists, getting 19. Let's make it 20 likes. Scrolling down more and more. Kyle Becker says it's critical theory. Anyone who studies it more than 5 minutes can figure it out and predict every single talking point for the American left. Getting 615 likes. I also have Vertical Architect having this popular meme going around this week. You have a short, pink-haired, overweight gal, leftist, but that's kind of redundant, who's all happy. He says, refugees welcome. And then she sees the white refugees from South Africa, and then she's upset and irate. That got 186 likes. So we'll see. Let's see here. Oh, one more. JG says, it's all good, well, but, and you have I don't know who made this, but the geese meme, where you have the goose saying, who are they, Matt? And says it again, and the figure is running away, getting 934 likes. I would say the deep state, leftist. So I was going to say this, I think Matt brings up a couple good points, and it is kind of cliche. I mean, just think about all the times they talk about on the TV. But let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have the quote-unquote Michigan man named Mohamed. Well, he's, arrested for a terrorism attack being planned. Now, this was brought to us thanks to End Wokeness. And he says, quote-unquote Michigan man, well, I'm definitely not going to get this pronunciation right, but it's not for lack of trying. Abdul Majadi. Abdul Majad? Sounds like I'm trying to rap, I think. Abdul Majad Mohamed. Well, I was going to say that's the most popular name in the UK for new babies, I think. That one's easy to remember. Mohamed said that, his name is said? Abdul Mahad Mohamed said. his last name is said. That is ridiculous. It's almost as comical as having a name like Topping. Oh, wait. I partially digress. But Mr. Mohamed said was arrested for planning an attack on a military base in Detroit. Feel enriched yet. There's a picture of him, which, well, at least he does wear a button-up t-shirt, or button-up full-length dress shirt. Then the other picture, not to be cliche, but he's wearing a sweatshirt. It looks like the rudimentary ISIS flag, which is probably, the design of that flag tells you everything you need to know about the organization in terms of lack of IQ. I mean, a kid with a crayon in kindergarten, could have designed a more eloquent flag. Yeah, ISIS has their, crap flag. And it got about 200,000 views and 9.5 thousand likes. So, I mean, the real question is, if he were to, and again, hopefully no one was actually harmed if he were to do anything, but hypothetically speaking, if he were to actually go through with a terror attack plan on the city of Detroit, would anyone be able to tell the difference before and after? I mean, probably not, and I'm only partially kidding. Now, going to the comments, when the top one is come to us thanks to Brianna Mariano, saying, quote, "You left out the biggest deal. This is a ISIS-inspired attack. The attack was inspired by Islam. Those details are critical when telling these stories." Getting 158 likes. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, "Another Democrat hero arrested," getting 190 likes. Paul Zupa says, "Doesn't matter. Democrats will still defend him," getting 56 likes. Yep. Mirthful Moments says this, and there's a picture of some M&Ms, or a bowl of M&Ms rather. It says, "You say that not all Muslims are monster. Imagine a bowl of M&Ms with 10% of them being poisoned. Would you still eat a handful?" Getting 34 likes. And, well, this is the United States, and we have an obesity problem. So, yeah, probably most people would eat the M&Ms, even if 10% were poison. Because, yeah, we have a sugar problem. Well, a lot of problems in the United States with our health. But, yeah, the copious amounts of high fructose corn syrup and candies, I think, is a variable. That got, again, 34 likes. The Conservative Alternative says, quote, "Michigan man and Maryland man are about to become the best buds in El Salvador," getting 60 likes. You also have Mirthful Moments saying, quote, "Deport them," although he's actually spelled it depot them. Maybe he's wishing that they go to the Home Depot, which actually not that bad of a punishment, unless, heaven forbid, you need customer support or customer help. They're trying to find something. Oh, it's dreadful. You get it's almost like a scavenger hunt trying to find an employee to help you. But I partially digress as he talks about depotting them. And they have some Islamic men. It says, "Sharia law is clear. You can convert, die, or be enslaved. Import Muslims, get Sharia law. Muslims will not deny it. What part is hard to understand?" Getting 30 likes. You also have a picture of refugee with a, what is that? Not a Bowie knife, but a large scabbard or something to that effect. It's from Yosemite Sam saying, "Here comes the diversity. You are about to be culturally enriched," getting 27 likes. Tiago says, quote, "Just another random lone wolf who was totally coincidentally named. Nothing to see here, folks. Diversity is our strength, right?" Getting 45 likes. I have Dr. Sherry say, quote, "The real threat to the USA and the West is not Russia and China. It is, at this moment, it is Islam. Prove me wrong," getting 43 likes. Which, yeah, it is funny how much politicians say, "Oh my gosh, Russia's the biggest enemy in the world. Oh, they're a threat to our lives, democracy." Last time I checked, they're just chilling over there making vodka and AK-47s. When's the last time they actually had a lot of influence? They're pretty far away. I'm not too worried they're going to invade us. Someday before I die, I do hope we actually have good relations with Russia. So you get some nice cheap spam cam ammo again. Maybe get some Mosin Nagants. Used to be able to get one for $80 a pop. A crate of Mosin Nagants was a 10-pack. Used to be able to get that for a couple $100 back in the day. So I'll kick myself for not buying that. But I partially digress. Back to the comments. You also have, what is this? I Love American News says, "At least he was caught before he could act." And it says, this is a picture of Hiroshima from 1945 to 2010 and a picture of Detroit from 1945 to 2010. It says, "Detroit, Michigan is proof that 6 decades of Democrat leadership caused more lasting damage than a nuclear bomb," which this was debunked a couple years ago. The pictures were, I think, in a suburb of Detroit or something like that. But yeah, overall, still, I think there's kind of some truth to this. Let's just say I had some family, most ironic thing in the world. My family escaped communism in Cuba, and they went to the one place on the planet worse than that, Southside Detroit. Needless to say, they all worked like hell, didn't take any government benefits, and they all became successful and, of course, moved the hell out. They got 38 likes. Western Dominion says, "Michigan man." You have the JD fans, Mame, looking all funny, getting 21 likes. You also have the Dipster says, "Fortunately, not black enough for a statue," getting 8 likes. Let's see. Crazy Vibe says, "I keep seeing things like this. Muslims have conflicts with Christians. Muslims have conflicts with Jews. Muslims have conflicts with Hindus. Muslims have conflicts with atheists. Muslims have conflicts with other Muslims. Beating interpretation, Islamophobia must be that rampant." Getting 72 likes. Which, yeah, there are some places that want to roll out Sharia law, which I would argue are against most of the values that we hold dear. But it'll be interesting to see. Let me know your thoughts, because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the political part podcast, you have Democrat Representative Ayanna Pressley saying that USA owes African American reparations now. Even though, last time I checked, Democrats were in power, I mean, a couple, literally, what was it, 120 days prior to this? And yet they weren't demanding any reparations when Biden was in charge. Didn't see them moving the ball. So this is a cliche talking point that's been around for 30 years, but now the Republicans are in power, they're going to bring up the talking point yet again. And I'm so sorry, I should put a disclaimer on the screen in terms of a visual disclaimer, because not everyone, but some might argue that Miss Pressley is viscerally, visually disgusting in comparison to me. Some might argue it's a coin flip, and some might say she's more attractive than me. It's a whole variety, though I'm sorry, should have put a visual disclaimer. Oh, wait a minute. Is that Charles Barkley? No, it's Miss Pressley. Now, she says, and I am like kidding, that's one of the comments down there, but yeah, it's only about 18 seconds long. It might feel like an eternity. And to their credit, they did spend some, well, I was about to say they spent some, probably Soros or some PAC spent money on actual high quality. This is above Kinko's in terms of the quality of these little posters that they're holding up. I want to say they're about maybe 2 feet by 9-10 inches. I mean, I don't know if that's the high quality cardstock, but that's certainly laminate. They didn't just go to the FedEx, or maybe they did. They put some thought in this. They didn't just go to the Hobby Lobby and get some poster boards. Without too much further ado, and again, this might hurt your ear balls.
And discrimination against black people. We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-blackness is to be pro-black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
Jeez, people thought I speak fast. She's speaking faster than Ben Shapiro. Let's slow it down a little bit. And granted, fun fact, not about public speaking, but a fun fact about, what is this? Oh yeah, playback speed. Anytime you're doing a speech in front of people, on average, you will speak faster than you natively do. I was going to say, one of the best organizations I've ever been a part of was Toastmasters, which, not sponsored to the show for sure. But yeah, if you want to increase your speaking skills, they have a lot of chapters throughout the United States. And that's something you quickly learn when you're starting to kind of get into speech writing and improving your speaking skills is, like, when you're in front of a group of people on camera, you'll speak a lot faster than you normally do, which kind of is a multiplier for me because even normally off camera I speak pretty darn fast. So maybe at half speed she'll sound more coherent.
And discrimination against black people. We are in a moment of anti-blackness on steroids, and we refuse to be silent. We will not back down in our pursuit of racial justice. The antidote to anti-blackness is to be pro-black, and we will do it unapologetically. The United States government owes us a debt, and we need reparations now.
Well, morality aside, well, it's also immoral. You shouldn't have to pay for something you didn't cause. Where's that money come from again? Friendly reminder, because of the ineptitudes and or corruption of Democrats and Republicans, we're over $36 trillion in debt. In fact, let's bring up that sad point. Let's see, U.S. debt clock. And fortunately, Trump does not have, Trump and Republicans, they should. No one has the balls to actually say we need to cut things like all the handouts we give, because it's not sustainable, obviously. And yet, no one actually wants to bring that point up because they lose votes. The U.S. is $36.857 trillion in debt. Doge is saving us money, but again, they've saved us in about 438 million, which is a lot of money in and of itself, but not in comparison to, again, $36.8 trillion, and it goes up literally every single second of the day, correlating to a debt per citizen, or debt per taxpayer of $323,050, which, yeah, that is unfathomably bad. And yeah, and again, this is a cliche that they do every time Republicans in office. They use this to raise campaign funds. I think it's immoral and also inauthentic for her to do this because, again, they know it's not going to happen. It's wildly unpopular on a national level when you poll most Americans. Granted, they're changing the demographics of the United States and importing more and more voters and people, so that might change and skew the results more and more. But yeah, why should people who never owned slaves have to pay back to people who were never slaves? I mean, most hilarious is when California introduced a bill for reparations, which, again, California never had slavery. And yet they're saying, oh yeah, we should have reparations in California. Though it is California, that isn't the most insane thing they've thought of. It's California. Now, this rent pre-file got 3.4 million views and 7.8 thousand likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Based Electrician, says, quote, "I'm not giving free money to Charles Barkley," and got 110 likes, and there's a screenshot of her looking hilarious. You also have The Rabbit Hole saying, quote, "Oh, a quote by Thomas Sowell, A+. He is, as youth might say, based AF." But I believe that means based as freedom. But nevertheless, The Rabbit Hole says, quote, If you were to give reparations to everyone whose ancestors had been slaves, I suspect you would have to give reparations to more than half of the entire population of the globe. Slavery was not confined to one set of races, unquote. As again from Thomas Sowell. Also, I mean, shouldn't the people who sold the people into slavery have some culpability? I mean, shouldn't they be taxed or have their money stolen from them? Is she suggesting that we go to Africa, go to those tribes and say, hey, you sold some of your competing tribes into slavery hundreds of years ago. You should pay us money. Of course, they're not talking about that. They just want to steal money from taxpayers. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, bald-headed bitch isn't getting a single penny, getting 4.4 thousand likes. X Van Fleet, famous individual who escaped communism in China, he says, quote, BLM must pay more than $1 billion for damages the riots they caused. Actually, it's more than that. The BLM riots, or George Floyd riots, cost about $2 billion in property damage, and I believe 36 people died. But they don't talk about that on CNN. Yeah, Clown World saying, quote, now that Trump is back, suddenly they remember reparations. Where was all this energy when Biden was in charge? You had 4 years, sit down opportunist, getting 4,000 likes. Good question. Jay says, just wait until all of us non-black identify as black and get reparations. Getting 51 likes. Which is a good point, because again, her party is a party of, I mean, they can't define what a woman is. So, I mean, or what a race is. So, yeah, by their logic, you can do that. Paul Zupa says, what a joke of a person, getting 212 likes. Democrat Media TM says, quote, now this is a perfect meme to describe all Democrats above. It's Bob Ross, the painter. I really don't know his accent too much, but I'll attempt to give it a go. He says, well, just over there, we're going to add a little bit, right over here by those trees. We'll just add a bitter little liberal bitch over there, right there. Maybe that's my second talent. Maybe I'll try painting. I'm kidding. I can only do stick figures. That got 197 likes. They have a picture from Democrat Media TM says, quote, no one, and I mean no one, has done more harm to America than Democrats. Getting 249 likes. Oh, this got 1.2 thousand likes. It's credited to the Mastiff Mafia. He actually reposted a picture or a post from Blake Sheldon saying, quote, Abraham Lincoln paid reparations through the Freeman's Bureau in 1865. It gave all free black men 40 acres and a mule, plus food, clothing, and farm tools over a 7-year period until 1872, and then ended by Democrats. Look it up. Congressional Democrats are ignorant of the piece of history now you know, getting 1.2 thousand likes. Bertha Momus also said, true story. It's a picture of Al Sharpton and Oprah. Says racism. Some people make a lot of money on it. Oh, yes, they do. Getting 175 likes. I was going to say, if it wasn't for fake racism, Al Sharpton would have no job at all. I mean, he would be, geez Louise, he would just sit around and do nothing all day. Going down more and more. Laura says, reparations have already been paid by the 360,000 soldiers who died fighting to end slavery. Getting 711 likes. Going up like a stock. Sunny Days says, the squad getting ready to go out and be oppressed. Yeah, 172 likes, and all the gals looking as mentally vacuous as they usually do. Throwing down more and more. Crooked Joe says, about that, there's a picture of Clint Eastwood. He says, listen, I was going to say, I don't think I could dare do the great accent of Clint Eastwood. Are you feeling lucky, punk? Do ya? Let's just listen up, Snowflake, and let this sink in. I never owned any slaves, and you never picked any cotton. Here ends this lesson. I don't know you, shit. Getting 196 likes, and maybe losing me 5 subscribers because that accent attempt was so bad. Now, going back to the comments. Tanya says, you get nothing. And there's a picture of a fuel level for a car. This is white guilt. It says empty. And it says, none of my ancestors owned slaves, nor did 95% of the white Americans during the years of slavery. White Republicans died in the Civil War to free slaves. White Republicans voted unanimously to free the slaves and later voted to give them citizenship and voting rights. Democrats fought against all 3 of these amendments, getting 53 likes. Laura says, you are owed nothing, getting 137 likes. Canadian Patriot, they exist. This person is a nationalist Christian old stock Canadian. Climate change is a fraud. Canadian first. Mass deportations. Stop invasion. Canada first. They exist. I will give this gentleman a follow. I feel so bad for Canadians. Because again, there are some good people in Canada. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they gave us Pamela Anderson and what else? I guess Ryan Reynolds, Justin Bieber. So maybe they actually owe us money. But in all seriousness, there are some freedom-loving folks in Canada. There's just so many tyrants and communists that overpopulate them when it comes to the voting patterns. But yeah, imagine being born in Canada with freedom in America right there next door, where you actually have freedom of speech, freedom to defend yourself and your family, the Second Amendment, freedom to write and assemble, peacefully protest. And Canada's like, no, we don't have any guaranteed freedoms. But I forget when that douchebag Justin Trudeau, that little bastard of Castro, It said you have no right to defend yourself with a firearm, as they are as they are stealing firearms away and disarming citizens. Yeah, as if you need yet another reason not to live in Canada. Now, this Canadian patriot has a picture of it's a meme with an African American and a white gentleman. It says, quote, "So I ran the numbers on reparations. After subtracting for crime, you actually owe the white people $4.7 trillion, getting 3.5 thousand likes." Whoa. I think that's the most liked comments. Like Engelman says, "Screw your racist reparations," getting 1.4 thousand likes. A lot of people, there's a couple of memes of her with the clown makeup on, getting 333 likes, thanks to Fist Punch Skull. Let's see. Maharashi says, quote, "The American taxpayer doesn't owe a penny in reparations. Not a single living American has ever owned a slave. Plus, living in America is the reparation is infinitely better than being in Africa." End of story. Getting 1.5 thousand likes. That's a good point. I don't forget, it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had a clip about a gal who actually left America, or African-American gal who left the United States because she thought it was so racist and evil. She went back to Africa, and she made a video just saying how crappy it was because of the lack of infrastructure, people trying to steal from her, and people assuming she was rich because she was American, so they'd be begging from her all the time. And she was saying, oh yeah, she wants to come back here. Yeah. I think it was Ted Nugent who said it best. He said, "The whole world sucks, but the U.S. sucks the least." So obviously there's no perfect country, but I would argue we are the most perfect. So, but now again, politically speaking, I understand why she's doing this. She's going to raise millions of dollars in campaign funds, donations, and there are mentally vacuous voters who believe her and they think this will become a thing. Personally, I think it would tear our country apart. It would just ignite it would ignite negative emotions between people. Because again, you already steal tax dollars from people who pay to work for a living, and you have people who don't work for a living, and people who don't even live here legally. Now you're going to give even more of our tax dollars away for people that were not directly impacted by slavery. So again, I think this would be detrimental to the country. I think it would divide us even further. And in terms of a mass acceptance, I don't think this would ever be accepted on a mass level in the United States. So I don't think it would ever be passed, the House or Senate in terms of, a bill or a law. But let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Now going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford recalling 5 different trucks and SUV models in a single day over 4 separate issues. Yeah, what is this? Now 50 recalls thus far in the year? It's not even June, folks, and Ford has had more recalls than any other automobile manufacturer, even more than Volkswagen, which is saying something. Now this is brought to us thanks to Emmett White, who's a writer at Road and Track. And again, they say, quote, "Ford recalls 5 different truck and SUV models in a single day over 4 separate issues. The Dearborn-based manufacturer is on a recall roll and doesn't look like it's stopping soon." Which I'm actually surprised they don't specify Michigan, because only 18 people know what Dearborn, Michigan is. It's famously known for, only being known for the headquarters of Ford and having the Great Ford Automobile Museum. I'll give it that as well. And here you can see, you're going to see it. Was that Ford? Not the Escape, which is what people call the Escape if you're lame like me. When I used to work in corporate America, I got a Ford Escape or Escape. Is that the Ford Explorer? Which, if Ford was smart, they'd be putting a lot of energy in the quality of these vehicles, because they make all their profit on trucks and SUVs. Partially why they pivoted to making mostly those vehicles all those years ago. Now, they say, I think that's, good question in the comments. What looks better, that? Or the Lincoln Navigator, which is, I would argue, more important than the Ford vehicle logo, because, both made by Ford, obviously, but that's more important because that's more profitable. That is priced at a premium price point. That's supposed to be a luxury vehicle like Cadillac for General Motors. And yet they don't have quality assurance for the most important profit-making part of the company. Again, Ford lost over $5 billion in 2024 on EVs. They're crap, fiscally speaking, for the company. They're estimating to lose $5.2 billion this year on EVs. We'll see if that pans out. They make all their profit on gas engines, on the glorious V8s. And then they need to make boring, V6s and smaller. But nevertheless, gas engines. That's what that's where they make the profit, especially the SUVs and the trucks. The most profitable vehicles in the U.S. are those categories. That's why every car company manufactures them. And if your company makes small entry-level vehicles, which isn't great, but no topic for another time, perhaps. Now, they say, quote, "Ford can't seem to stop issuing recalls. On May 9th was a particularly unlucky day for hundreds of thousands of Ford owners, as a Dearborn-based automaker issued 4 separate recalls for different issues. These recalls covered 4 models across the car maker's pickup truck and SUV line, all focused on individual issues, but some of those issues are more serious than others. The latest recall of the bunch pertains to 273,789 Ford Expedition and Lincoln Navigator units, from 2022 to 2024. Which again, as you look at the pictures, they look oddly reminiscent and oddly the same because, yeah, it's, same thing, different body, slightly different bodywork, slightly different nice interiors and badging, They say these burly SUVs are prone to a loss of brake function due to leaking brake fluid. Ford explained in a filing with the National Highway Safety Administration, only 1% of the hundreds of thousands of units included in the recall are suspected to exhibit the issue, but those will likely experience longer than expected brake pedal travel or even a rapid loss of brake fluid. Naturally, this decreased braking ability and increased the odds of a crash. Now, they say the next one is a Ford Bronco. A total of 2002 Bronco units from 2024 are being recalled over a minor issue with the child safety locks. Whoops. I'm sorry, let me get that Ford Bronco on the screen there, which the Ford Escort actually doesn't look too bad, and I do appreciate it comes with a stick shift option, which is very rare these days, especially rare these days, but I'd argue the most fun you could ever have. They say a total, again, 2002 Bronco units from manufacturer year 2024 being recalled over a minor issue with safety locks. Ford says the left side rear door may be open from the inside even when the child safety lock is on. Whoops. Which obviously poses a problem for notorious curious toddler friends. The issue stems from the door flushness and tolerances gap, which shifted in the location of the left-hand rear door latch. Dealer technicians will first inspect the child safety locks and then potentially replace the rear door latch. Thankfully, Ford has not received any reports of injury from that. Okay, so there's a silver lining there. But they said, but that's not all for the Bronco. Both Bronco and Ranger pickup trucks were included in another recall for loose or missing driver's seat bolts. What? That's a fine work from the union at the United Auto Workers. I'm only partially kidding. Maybe this part was automated, but you're missing bolts for the seat. I understand vehicles are hard to make. They have between 10 and 30,000 individual components that make it up. It's the most complex thing most people ever buy in their lifetime. But the seat bolts, that's the thing, quite literally, the thing you sit in and interface the most. You can just give it a little jostle at the factory and notice, oh no, this is loose. Now, they noted that only 36 units are being recalled, but it remains worthwhile recall because, well, keeping the driver's seat in place is essential in the event of a crash. You don't say. Also, the lack of bolts violates the portion of the federal motor safety standards, which automatically prompts a recall. Whoops. It shouldn't be hard to guess what remedy the issue is. Either Ford says dealers simply check for the Ford bolts before tightening or adding bolts. They say, finally, a small crop of 2025 Ford F-150 pickups were recalled for loose fasteners on the lower intermittent shaft. A total of 9,081 pickups were included in the recall, which stemmed from a manufacturing error where the lower intermediate shaft wasn't properly torqued to the steering gear and could potentially allow the shaft to come loose or even detach. Whoops. Ford says F-150 owners may hear a rattling noise. Well, that doesn't help too much. That's all Ford vehicles. You're always going to hear that rattling noise. It doesn't really narrow it down for us, does it? Now, they claim they'll hear the rattling noise this time from the steering wheel and experience excessive steering play prior to serious consequences or of detachment. Again, the remedy is relatively easy. Each dealer technician will inspect for intermediate shaft fasteners and then tighten or replace the appropriate fasteners for no charge. Which, in this case, again, the assembly of a lot of these vehicles use a lot of heavy machinery. A lot of it, in this case, I actually think it probably was not calibrated properly, and it wasn't obvious. It was torqued, but not to the right spec. Again, still pathetic that someone didn't calibrate the machine, but I can at least understand that. How do you miss bolts? For the love of God. Jeez Louise. Now, save for the brake issue, none of the recalls are too expensive, but they do represent a continuation of a consistent flow of recalls coming out of Dearborn. It seems Ford has honed its ability to limit the scope of these recalls thanks to the production line monitoring system. As exemplified by the 46-unit recall of the Bronco and Ranger models, but the impact on customers remains no matter how small the group. Which, yeah, unless you have a family member at Ford, which, if you ever go to Michigan, which, don't go to Detroit, obviously, but there are some beautiful parts. I used to go fishing there as a kid. Again, you will see mostly American automobiles because, the big three, Ford, General Motors, and what used to be Chrysler, now Stellantis, Italian-owned. They built the state. Detroit was once the richest city on the planet, believe it or not. Again, Dearborn is a suburb of Detroit, fancier, safer. Low bar, but still safer. But again, you see a lot of American vehicles there, partially because the friends and family discount. And even if you retire from the companies, even retirees get the benefit, or some might say the curse, of a great, well, at least fiscally great leasing option. So you can lease new GM vehicles. And again, there's a mutual beneficial relationship. Helps the company boost their sales or lease numbers. Some might say artificially because there's such a low cost, they're probably losing money at, but nevertheless, it helps in volume. So you see a lot of American cars up there because, again, you have the Friends and Family discount. That's where the headquarters are for the big three. And it makes sense. But unless you're getting that great discount now, like even now, like what's the compelling reason to buy a Ford? I mean, I do love the fact they make a Mustang, which again, I would argue won the Pony War because it's the only muscle car that never stopped production and also has a V8 and a 6-shift, which the Camaro is dead. And the Dodge Charger, geez Louise, and Challenger, they're both going to be EVs and straight 6 engines with twin turbo, automatic only. So again, I appreciate Jim Farley's dedicated to having a sports car. He always said he'd be dedicated to a cheap, affordable American sports car, the V8 and a stick. That's a rare thing. That's awesome. And like if I won the lottery, I probably would get a Mustang and put that in the garage and play with it. I mean, that's just pure Americana. But again, unless you're working at Ford, why would you buy them these days? There's so many recalls, some of them even safety related. Again, some of these recalls are BS. It's just the camera not working back. That's a software update. You could argue it's safety. I would argue be a good driver and walk around your vehicle and inspect the area before you move. But nevertheless, some recalls are more serious than others. Again, Ford now having over 45 and then recalls of the year, and now again 5 different recalls in a single day, which their record earlier this year was 4 recalls in a day. I gotta say, Ford, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you can click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. And lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.